Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Blue webinar series. And today is World Environmental Day, and we gather in the spirit of environmental stewardship. We also look ahead to World Ocean Day. This is a moment to celebrate our ocean and recognize the urgent need to protect them. I'm thrilled to have you all here for what promises to be an inspiring and eye-opening conversation. We will be diving deep into the realities, ethics, and cultural values of our ocean, and discussing why their protection is more critical now than ever before. Before we begin, just a quick housekeeping notes. Please keep your microphones muted throughout the webinar to avoid background noise. This session will be recorded and shared later on YouTube for those who would like to revisit it. And if you have any question during the discussion, please type them in the chat, mentioning which speaker you would like to address. We will open the floor for question answer after all our speakers have shared their insights. Now, I would like to invite Sundus to say a few words about World Ocean Day and its significance.
Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we hear you perfect.
Great. Okay, so I'm just going to be sharing a small presentation for you all. So we are here to celebrate World Ocean Day, which is on June 8th, but we'll be discussing about ocean itself and how important it is and the awareness that we need to protect ocean. So moving forward, this is a little bit about me. I'm the Strategy Head Ocean and Climate Programs at Marine Conservation Pakistan. I'm a sustainability expert and PEDI advanced open water diver. I specialize in climate change, coastal resilience, and ocean literacy. I have around 9+ years of expertise integrating science and strategy to drive sustainability initiatives, marine conservation, and coastal resilience. So whenever we are talking about conservation efforts, we are more focused on the land and mostly talking about planting trees, collecting waste, recycling it, and whatnot. But there is very little conversation about ocean itself. And what I like the most is what Arthur C. Clarke has said, that how inappropriate it is to call this planet Earth when it's quite clearly ocean. And it's visible to the eye. I mean, just look at the satellite images. You can see that 71% of the Earth is covered with ocean. And there is very little part of land, and there's so less conversation about ocean. And when we talk about ocean, we don't talk about there exist 5 oceans in the world, because it's one interconnected system. We call it one ocean because it helps with more effective decision making and making the conversation easier for everyone. Because when it is all connected, it is more protected. So understand by the perspective of a fish. For a fish, there are no boundaries or continents. It's just one continuous flowing system. It provides habitat, it provides food, it provides everything that the marine life needs. So looking from the fish eye perspective, there is no boundary, there is no continent, there's just one single flowing system of ocean. So why is it important? It reminds us that single actions impact the whole. Energy and nutrients are cycled across this single interconnected system, keeping everything in balance. And of course, 2025 theme is wonders, sustaining what sustains us. But it's important to first understand how the ocean is sustaining us. So I have a little small video to show you all, and I'm just going to play it here. Here you go.
This audio is not enabled.
I'm sorry, can you see it?
There's no audio in the video.
Yeah, we can see it, no audio.
Oh, no audio? Why is it happening? I'm not sure. Okay. Can you hear it now? No, I'm not sure what's wrong. Anyway.
No, cannot hear it.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Anyway, I'll skip it. The video is all about how important the ocean literacy is, and it is important to be ocean literate to protect what protects us. So, first of all, climate regulation. Many people don't know that ocean absorbs about 30% of the carbon dioxide produced by human activities and over 90% of excess heat from global warming. And then it supports biodiversity. They are home to over 2 million known species with potentially million more undiscovered. And then it's a source of our oxygen also. Marine plants, especially phytoplanktons, produce about 50 to 70% of world oxygen. And there are many, many other benefits, including economic value, recreation and culture, food source, and energy source as well. So it's important to be ocean literate, to know the ocean better so that we can have, protection measures, decision making, and everything much guided. Moving on, we understand that as much as we discuss about ocean, we cannot ignore the threats it faces. It faces plastic pollution. It faces coral bleaching. The corals are dying because of rise in temperature, industrial waste, and whatnot. And then there are some modern fishing techniques and their impacts, like trawler fishing nets, which are scraping the whole bottom and killing the habitats, fish, and everything. And then there are many, many other threats that we see around the world that's happening with overfishing and catching one fish, but using these trawler nets to gather everything and wasting back to the ocean. And then we see how it's impacting the marine life and corals. And it's very devastating that what we are doing to the ocean. This is a turtle stuck in a net, and many, many other devastating effects. These are abandoned nets. We call it ghost nets. So I wouldn't take much time, but just wrap up by saying that understanding is the key, and it's important to understand it in order to protect it. Thank you so much. Back to you, Shafi.
Thank you, Sundus, for sharing this. So we are honored to have four incredible speakers with us today, three of whom are my mentors and teachers, and one is my SOA Ocean Fellow. Each brings a wealth of knowledge and passion of our ocean. First one is Moazzam Khan. Second is Amer Bazl Khan. And third is Maria. Hi, Maria. And fourth is Dr. Anuar Abdullah. So it's now my pleasure to invite our first speaker, Moazzam Khan. I will introduce him. Moazzam Khan is one of the leading fisheries scientists of Pakistan. He retired as a Fisheries Organization of Pakistan. He is a member of a number of national and international societies, including as president of Pakistan Whale and Dolphin Society, life member of Marine Biological Association of India, fellow Pakistan Fisheries Society, fellow Zoological Society of Pakistan. Presently, he is working as a technical advisor, marine fisheries in WWF Pakistan. Sir, now floor is yours. You can share your presentation. And today's the topic is Pakistan Enriched Marine Life. Thank you, sir. You can start.
Thank you very much, Sabir. Thank you, everyone present at this particular meeting. And especially, I'm thankful to Marine Conservation Pakistan for giving me this opportunity to talk about the diversified marine life present in Pakistan and the threats being fed there and how we can tackle that. So, first of all, the Pakistan is blessed with the bounties of God. And if you talk about the marine diversity of marine life, we have some of the animals or living creatures which are not yet been classified to be whether plant or animals. And both these photographs is from Churna Island. And on the left is Sea Sparkle, which gives the photoluminescence in the night in the coastal area. And the right one is the orca. So these two photographs is from Churna Island, and you can see the diversity of life between very primitive animals to very advanced animals. They are all known from Pakistan, like most part of the world ocean. Since we are located in the Arabian Sea, we have some features of this particular sea which are giving us a little bit more than what we are expecting. The Arabian Sea is the contiguous sea of the Indian Ocean. It is the northernmost part of the Indian Ocean, and as such, the Pakistan name is included for the first time in Guinness World of Record. That is, Pakistan is the northernmost country of the Indian Ocean. And Arabian Sea is considered to be one of the richest sea in terms of primary productivity. And because of some other factors, which I'll be listing, that the productivity is very high, but diversity or in terms of quantity, the species or the quantities are not that abundant. The unique feature of the most part of the Indian Ocean is the monsoonal reversal. We have four seasons, southwest monsoon for most part of the year in the summer. Then we have a calm season followed by a northeast monsoon and then another calm season. And there is no large river that discharge in the Arabian Sea except for Indus River. And also we have mangroves along the coast of and along the other countries of the Arabian Sea. The most striking feature of the Arabian Sea is the oxygen minimum layer. This is a very big zone, rather one of the largest zone in the world, and it lies between 1,000 meter to about 3,000 meters for most part of the year, but it start moving to the coastline in the winter, and the oxygen is almost not there. So this particular oxygen minimum zone determine the diversity, the quantity, the abundance of marine life, and some of the unique animals that we have. We do not have pronounced upwelling like we have in Oman. There is no upwelling that take place in Pakistan, and Arabian Sea is one of the area where very limited rainfall. If you are comparing with the Bay of Bengal, contiguous sea of the Indian Ocean again. So, I just would want to quote you one example that I think it was 1991 or 1992 that I received a call from a TV channel at about 3 o'clock in the early morning, and they wanted me to have my view on some of the alien species that they have found on the coast of Pakistan. They have found one of the guitar fish, and they thought this is an alien. And computer at that time or internet at that time very slow. It took me about 3 hours to download that clip. And when I ran that particular, I was surprised that the tilawat of Quran was going on in the background, and they are showing that there's some alien has invaded Pakistani coastline, and it was simply a guitar fish. And but unlucky, they have played this particular video on many TV channels, and on many times I've seen this particular done. This is primarily because of the lack of information, lack of knowledge and awareness. So it was a guitar fish. It's a bow mouth guitar fish, which is a critically endangered species, but still found in Pakistani waters, not rare. You see them quite often. Then we have a unique set of animals there in Pakistan. Some of them you won't believe that they are animals. The one on the right is a shark, and the left one is a mola sunfish. And there are other species like these are some one of the boxfish, which looks quite unusual. Then we have other diversity for life. If you look at this particular species, which is right on the top on your left, this species is called Armstrongi, one of the Armstrong crab. And when we first thought, we thought that these bulges are primarily because of the meat. But when we analyzed, it was found that it's all gills, because it's particular species found in the depth where there is no oxygen. So surviving in the low oxygen means that you have to have some adaptation. So then adaptations are there for survival, because this blue and black lies in the marine and terrestrial is considered to be a signal, a warning signal. So this particular species relays the signal that don't come near me, I am very dangerous. And this particular fish, I don't know how many of you know about it. The world's most abundant animal that is found on the earth is Antarctic krill. These are the small shrimp that is found in the Antarctic water and the main food of many species, including large whales. And the next most dominating species is this particular species, which is the lanternfish. And this is found in the mesopelagic area, the area where there is no oxygen. So this is, and Pakistan is one of the main center for this species, not Pakistan, Arabian Sea itself. And it's very difficult to harvest this particular species, and no country has even tried it. This was Iran. About 4 years back, they have started exploiting it. So this is a catch of about 2 hour tow, something like about, I think it's about more than about 27 to 28 ton of this particular fish, just in one particular haul. So such big quantities are there in the environment where there is no oxygen. No animal can survive in this particular environment, but this is Pakistani main particular fauna, which is the characteristic of this area. There are many deep sea species found in this area. These are the one which is found quite abundantly in Pakistani water. Some of them are quite unique, interesting, that create a lot of interest among the people. So you do have all of them in Pakistani water. But the diversity of marine life is because of the diversity of habitats. It was very difficult to comprehend this topic, whether I should arrange it on the scientific classification basis or any other basis. Ultimately, I decided to let me arrange them according to the habitat where they are found, but keeping the plants a little bit separated from. So we have mangroves, we have seaweeds, we have rich mangroves along the coast of Pakistan on 5 different places along the coastline, which is very rich in marine animals. It's a breeding area, it's a nursery area, it's a bird breeding area, it's a bird habitat. Then we have halophytes all along the coastline on the sandy beaches especially. And also the phytoplankton. This was my first life. I started my career as a botanist, and I worked on this particular group of animal. There are 700 species of phytoplankton that are found in Pakistan. So, and that gives the particular color to the ocean. Then the sandy beaches. We have a wide sandy beaches. One particular stretch in the Sonmiani Bay is about 250 kilometers long, and it is rich in marine life. The animals that are found in this area, they were able to live in the moving sand. Some of them, they live in burrow, and some of them commercially important species are found. On this particular photograph, you look at this particular beach, there are spots. These are spots created by bubbler crab. So this is the most abundant crab that is found on the sandy beaches or on any of the habitat in Pakistan. So we have ghost crab there. This is a breeding area for turtles. These are photographs from Stola Island. Stola Island is one of the important turtle beach in Pakistan. Then the sandy beaches are known to be house of migratory and resident birds. A lot of terns, a lot of gulls, and a lot of other waders are found on it. Then the muddy beaches, again, the situation is not different from the sandy beaches. Some of the animals live in the burrow, but most of them have ability to withstand low oxygen. There are commercially important species which are now harvested and exported. So this is the razor clam, which are commercially being harvested in Pakistan. And I think we are exporting something like about 3,000 metric ton of this species, mainly to Thailand and Chinese market. We are also exporting it in live condition also. Then it is habitat for muddy skipper and a lot of other species that are found in the mangroves area, and they come there for breeding and nursery ground. Then we have animals that are found on the little bit solid substrate. These are oyster, and Karachi oyster used to be considered one of the best in the British India. And there used to be a weekly flight for Viceroy of India because he just wanted to eat oyster from Karachi and also the barramundi from Karachi. So it's a very important habitat, and a lot of animals are found here. Then on the rocky shore, most of the rocky shore, we have a lot of rocky shores in coast of Pakistan, and they are almost similar to the coral habitats. And most of the animals, they are able to withstand high temperature. They are found on the rocks, below the rock, in the rocks, burrows, and I mean, there are variety of habitat you find. Most of them animals are similar to that of the coral reef. So if you look at this particular, this is an animal which is found on the high water mark. And if you look at this particular, I can see about 4 or 5 different species present here. Even in this one, all these dents have 1 or 2 specimen of some other species, and also one of them, salagis, is there. This is, I told you, it's almost similar to that of the coral reefs, which we have in Pakistan, corals. We don't have reefs. Then we have islands. The Churna and Estola are the 2 most important islands there, and then there are a series of islands in the Indus Delta, which are known for its habitat. This particular island was known for a bird species, and most of the people are not aware that they are still found in large quantity. Generally believe that they are the gulls that are breeding on this area, and even the person who has taken and considered to be an ornithologist, and he considered to be a bird expert, but he did not realize that this particular species on the bottom, this one, this is a tern, which is characteristically is the one which is breeding on the Estola Island, and is on Estola Island in huge quantity. I think it was 1873 that one of the British ornithologists visited this area and collected the eggs from this particular islands, and most of the world museum have eggs from this particular place. And this species is very much there. Then there are whales in the Estola Island. This is a photograph taken at Estola Island. Then there are a lot of dolphins in the area. And then there are snakes also. This particular species is called racer. And previously we thought that this is a common racer, cliff racer. But recently we came to know this may be a new species, because in Oman they found 3 new species of this particular genus. And this comes near to the one of these species, which is called Masiri, but it has other characters, so we are still in the process of identifying. So if it is found, then there is a lot of endemic animals on very small island of Estola. In any case, we do not have coral reefs, but limited patches of corals are there. So some of the people who are in this particular groups, they are primarily diver and they know a lot about it. This particular photograph was taken by Khizr Sharif. I have shared with one of the leading fish taxonomists, John Randall, who was one of my mentor in the University of Hawaii. And 3 species of sweeper, this is one of them, is new to the science. So they are described from the Estola Island, and I cannot identify most of the animals. I do identify most of them, but there are animals which you cannot identify because of the limited knowledge available. It's a nursery area. This particular species is golden trevally, but it's a nursery area for this species. And 2 years back, Khizr Sharif shared me this photograph. And when I looked at carefully, this is a species not reported from Pakistan. This is fragile cardinal fish, and it is the first record from the Arabian Sea. So a lot of diversity here. And I think I have reported about 11 species new to this area, 3 of them new to the science from Churna Island. So you can imagine the diversity of life that is available. This is also a species, this was photograph taken by the Dover Reef Group, and this is also a new record from the Arabian Sea. And there are commercially important species. That's why the area is a little bit under threat, which is found here. Then there are species which can be of commercially importance, but somehow we are not doing it, which is very good because it's giving us the diversity of marine life. Then there was, people were trying to start aquarium trade since last about 40 years, but we have somehow blocked it because unless it is started properly, it will lead to serious consequences. So we are somehow able to block it, but there is still potential is there. Coral are, because of the global changes in the temperature, coral bleaching is taking place, and I am in contact with some of the experts in Persian Gulf, and they are of the opinion that the corals in the Arabian Sea, especially along the coast of Pakistan, Iran, and part of Oman, are under serious threats of coral climate change, and because of the high temperature. We already have confirmed report of 3 heat waves in the ocean. And maybe the last year when Sabib has provided some photograph, That is because of the heat wave of the 2023, that a very big patch of coral was black, was almost white in the Churna Island. Then there is coral harvesting, illegal coral harvesting is being going on, and almost all aquarium shops in, especially in DHA and part of the other southern, they have corals that were taken illegally from either Stola Island or from Churna Island, mainly from Churna Island. The main threat to these marine life, I mean, I can continue. We have just published a biodiversity profile of Pakistan, and I think this is something like about 800-page book, and it's available online. And we have two other authors in it. But if you look at the threats, the most important threat is our large fleet and overfishing. This is a photograph of Gawadar. And I was posted here in 1982, so 1987. And there used to be only 14 boats in this area. And now this is one of the normal day. There may be boats that are already in fishing grounds. So you can imagine the size of fleet that has swelled in the area. We conducted our census of boats in 2010, and the figure was something like about 13,000, and we thought it's too much, and we recommended that it should be reduced to less than 6,000. But the fleet is growing like anything. Now the number of boats that are operating in Pakistani water is something like about 23,000 or more than 23,000. So you can imagine the sort of damage these can produce. There is high discard on almost all the vessels because of the poor legislation. Then there are gears which are devastating. This is a photograph which shows the small size shrimp that have been taken by one of the gear in the Indus Delta. So you can imagine these are all very small tiny shrimp. So you can imagine if they able to survive for long, they can convert into maybe hundreds of tons of this species. So some of the illegal gears, and this is a particular photograph which is very famous. I have taken in 2010, and this is the cord end of the trawl net being used in Pakistan. And you can imagine even the tip of the pen cannot pass through it. So imagine the sort of damage such nets can cause on the marine life. And this is the particular net you can see on the right side. Then they are fishing in the area which is they are not supposed to be doing it. It is right in the middle of the mangrove. They are using trawl net. They are using purseine. They are banned here. Then there are species which are threatened and commercially being harvested in Pakistan. This is mako shark and is considered to be threatened. Then ghost fishing, Sundus has already mentioned about it, and we have conducted a detailed study about the ghost fishing in Pakistan. It's a serious issue, but we are very lucky that a part of this net is being recycled in Pakistan, recycled in China. We export the used net to China and also to Estonia where they are recycled. So this is something very good which is going on, and we are trying that either the fragile nets should not be used and there should be some control on ghost fishing. In fact, the controlling ghost fishing is one of the most difficult tasks anywhere in the world. Then there are bycatch of the non-target species. This is olive ridley turtle, which is regularly being captured in gill nets. Then it's not confined to very small animal. This is Brutus whale in Gawadar, and it is almost entangled in the entire gill net. So you can imagine the sort of damage these gears can cause. So this is not confined to fishing operation. The pollution is also taking its toll. The right figure is from Clifton Beach, and you can imagine the level of plastic pollution on this. Today is the World Environment Day, and the theme is to reduce the plastic pollution. And this is from one of my publications. Then there are sewage pollution, oil pollution, solid waste, thermal pollution, light pollution, and you name it is there. This is the quantity of untreated sewage being dumped in the ocean. So you can imagine almost all 500 million gallon of untreated sewage is dumped in the sea. And There are some from Liari River, from Mali River, and this particular photograph is from Badin, where the waste of one of the sugar mill is coming directly into sea, and it has practically destroyed the fishing in some of the area. So there are small nalas or rivers in Karachi which are bringing all the pollutant to the sea, and some of the area because of this pollution are converted into azoic, which they may mean there is no life. So inside Karachi port there is a big area where there is no life, and also in the Gizri Creek there is an area where you don't find any life there because everything is gone because of the high level of pollution. Solid waste pollution is there, and imagine about 1.5 to about 2 million metric ton of solid waste and dumped in the sea. This is the unaccounted solid waste. This is other than what is being dumped in the dump site along the coast near Karachi. And you can see the level of plastic pollution. This is Clifton Beach. And this is very interesting for us. This is the garbage patch in the offshore water. And the right figure is from Jivani, which is the last city or last town along the coast of Pakistan. This is very near to Iranian border, like my cursor is right there at the Iranian coast. And you can imagine the level of plastic pollution, other pollution on the beach. So this is, and this particular beach is the most sacred and most biologically diversified beach in Pakistan. There is so much life. This is one particular beach where you'll find even the pearl oyster, and there are so many other animals. This is the most diversified, and imagine the level of pollution there. This is a graph from one of my paper which is coming. So this shows the quantity of microplastic on the Karachi coastline. So this paper is just been accepted for publication, and it's a huge quantity of microplastic that is found. Oil pollution is very much there. We had a case of major oil spill. Then there is thermal pollution. There are about 7 power plants along the coastline. They are dumping their heated water in the sea. Then also some of the rare pollution. The light pollution is very much increasing in Pakistan. This is a photograph from Stola Island. You can imagine the light. It's a turtle beach, and even a spark of light can disorient them. So you can imagine they are right next to the Stola Island. They are using so much light in the night. And also awareness is one of the lack of awareness, because you imagine this is a group of people who are helping a turtle to come out of its nest. So this is a photograph from Stola Island, and you can imagine this should not have been done. And this is one photograph. I have a set of photographs where a person was taking a ride on a female which came to lay eggs. So you can imagine the lack of awareness. So we can do something. We can always control all these threats to the biodiversity, but these are some of them that we have to take immediate action. Awareness is the most important thing that has to be done. We have been working for this for almost about now 70 years, but things have changed. I mean, if you compared it with about 40 years back, there is a lot of awareness among the people. They know things, they take action, they are quite aware of the situation, and things are much better now, but lot has to be done. Then industrial activities along the coast have to be controlled. I mean, imagine there is a single point mooring very next to Chorna Island, and there are other activities going where there are 3 power plants very near to Chorna Island. Imagine and the worst thing, there was a plan to establish this LPG receiving terminal right at Chorna. And it's a very interesting, they just wanted to construct 2 breakwater walls on the east and west side and remove everything in between. And then they were contacted some of the scientists, and they provided them all the data that it can be done. They said that the water is very fast flowing in around Chorna Island. So if these barriers are created, the life will increase there. So we have given them tough time. We have created so much fuss that this project was shelved, rather scrapped. But There's such threats are always there. Pollution has to be controlled. Fishing has to be sustainable. We have to have legislation for protection of marine biodiversity. We have declared some marine protected area. There are some concern about it. There are two already been declared because of the presence of coral. Stola and Churna are now declared. There are 3 in the pipeline. In fact, there are 5 in the pipeline in the various stages of action. So if the marine protected areas are declared, this is an international compulsion. We have to conserve our 30 by 30, and we have to take action for the recovery of some of the habitats which are seriously being downgraded. And most important being that we need scientific research. I mean, as far as the marine biodiversity is concerned, globally it is estimated that about 99.8% of the marine life is not yet been documented. And in case of Pakistan, it may be 99.99. So you imagine we know very little about our sea. We know very little about our habitat. We know very little about conservation, and we should be acting very quickly to protect the marine life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sir Moazzam. These are very incredible insights, and people think that Pakistan don't have the incredible marine life, but we have. We saw underwater, and you also give the very great presentation about that. Next, I would like to invite Amer Bazl Khan, Director, MaritimEA Research. He's a maritime archaeologist with 20 years experience working in Pakistan, Australia, and the broader Asia-Pacific region. He is an expert member of the International Committee of the Underwater Cultural Heritage, ICUC, and International Scientific Committee for the International Council on Monuments and Sites, ICOMOS, as well as member of the ICOMOS Pakistan National Committee. Amer is the Indian Ocean Regional Representative for the Ocean Decade Heritage Network, a recognized partner of the UN's UN's Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development 2021 to 2030. Sir, now floor is yours. The topic is cultural values of our ocean. Thank you, Amer.
Thank you, Shabib. I'll just start sharing my screen. Let's see. I think in the meantime, what an incredible presentation by Moazzam Saab. Look, it's been great actually just to see such familiar faces here, and fellow believers in the protection of our oceans. What I'll try and do is get, hopefully this comes up okay. Is that, can everyone see that?
Yeah. We can see your presentation.
All right. Okay, so look, I'll just briefly introduce myself, and firstly, thank you, Shabib and Marine Conservation Pakistan. You guys have been just doing such an incredible job, and it's been such a pleasure to watch and to work with Shabib, in fact, to work directly with Shabib and others, and to just see what you've been doing over the last, I'd say, couple of years now. So look, I think one of the big questions that I often encounter is this question of cultural values of the oceans, and it seems sort of counterintuitive at times. But I think, Songul, you mentioned in your talk that 70% of the world is oceans, and hence there is a human footprint that exists within the oceans, and there are anthropogenic changes that, of course, we've been talking about with marine pollution and many other effects. But these are not just contemporary. They don't just happen in isolation as in they're happening now. The human impact and footprint on the oceans is something that has existed since human activity along the seashores and beyond. And so there is a historical and cultural component to our understanding of the oceans. And so as a maritime archaeologist, that's what I'm interested in. But when I do talk about the cultural values of the oceans, it is goes hand in hand with the natural values. And Moazzam Saab talked at some length about what the marine life and the diversity of the nature-based values of Pakistani waters include. So I'd like to briefly just talk to you a little bit about the cultural values as well that accompany some of these natural values, if we can sort of make that comparison or that equivalence. So I'll do a quick introduction and then really talk about what is underwater cultural heritage, and then how do we protect underwater cultural heritage. This is sort of an emerging area of both scientific research, historical research, cultural heritage, protection, and in fact, there is sort of a legal footprint and an emerging direction with underwater cultural heritage that I hope to talk about briefly. So this is the team. Look, this is MaritimEA research, a couple of familiar faces in here as well. We work on cultural heritage and maritime archaeological projects primarily. But again, what I'll talk about is the connectivity between cultural heritage and the natural environment and ecosystems. So there'll be some crossover. One of the past projects, which was during when I was working at Mahi, which was an early phase of our exploration of archaeological sites, maritime archaeological sites in Pakistan. We were looking to develop a methodology and really sort of worked on a pilot project to identify maritime archaeological sites in Sindh primarily. And we're currently now working on, as MaritimEA, working on the Pakistan Maritime Heritage Survey, which has sort of taken that same, the IMAP concept, which was that first project, and extended it. We've now effectively ground truthed more than twice as many sites underwater than we did during IMAP. And this has been sort of running from season to season. And so we're developing an underwater cultural heritage database out of this additional work. And I'll hopefully be able to illustrate some of the sites and some of the types of sites as well that we're finding in Pakistan. Okay, so what is underwater cultural heritage? So there are some sort of formal definitions of this. There is a UN convention, the 2001 convention, which actually defines it. It's underwater cultural heritage is all traces of human existence, having a cultural, historical, or archaeological character that has been around for 100 years or more. Now, that's sort of a textbook definition, but what you could assume from that is, in the first instance, historic shipwrecks, historical ports that are now underwater, that are submerged, or isolated finds associated with maritime activity. Now, Pakistan has all of these. Now, the study of these sites, of places like this, is essentially an early first step in how do we actually understand what these sites are and their archaeological nature. And so maritime archaeology is effectively the discipline in the field that's involved in the documentation and identification and assessment of these sorts of sites. There are very many definitions of this, but effectively what we work with is that maritime archaeology is the study of all material remains associated with maritime cultures of the past. So it can be underwater, but it can be on land. It can be a ship or shipwreck, but it doesn't have to be. It could be associated with what those maritime cultures were doing at the time, and the material culture or the physical remains of those maritime communities, the things that they worked on, the items that they traded, the vessels or the techniques they used to transport and communicate between themselves. These are all important aspects of the maritime material culture, and that's what we aim to study as maritime archaeologists. Now, this is not a new discipline. This has been around for many years, but the maritime archaeology really came into its own with the advent of scuba. And this allowed for scientists to actually go underwater themselves and investigate sites and really understand not just the cultural, the material culture, the objects themselves, but the context. What happened here? What are we looking at? How does the rest of the ecological environment change and absorb this cultural material that has been deposited, this shipwreck, for instance, or this material on the seabed, and how is it taken over? So you have this combination of cultural reasons why things are the way they are underwater, but also natural, and trying to understand the combination of these two transformations that happen over time. And so maritime archaeologists really would be very interested in trying to understand how sites have changed over time. On land sites, typically they result from long periods of occupation. And so you can try and understand the site on land with that perspective in mind, that how did people live here over many, many years, and what were the changes that happened as a result. And so with that ongoing human occupation, you don't always end up with the full site. You're seeing parts of it. Some of it may have gotten destroyed. Some of it may have been developed. And now you have roads and bridges going over those areas. And so you sometimes deal with very partial assemblages. And with underwater sites like the shipwreck, this is quite unique. This is a single deposition event. This is a single point in time. And so you can almost find the complete assemblage. I mean, yes, changes happen over time, but what we're seeing is a single point, single event, a singularity. And this can be very valuable because there are certain materials and items that you find on a shipwreck that have been found on land sites as well, but you never quite know if it coexisted with another type of item, historical artifact. And when you find them both together on a shipwreck, you know that these sort of was from the same period. And so shipwrecks are quite an interesting type of archaeological site because they help us index the rest of the chronology of archaeology. So they have a fundamental role in that sense as well. Now, conservation underwater, many people think that if it's underwater, it's destroyed, it won't last very long, but actually that's quite the opposite. Sites isolated from human interaction tend to survive for a much longer period. You're not getting the kind of interaction with people coming and visiting and viewing the site and making changes or picking things up as much. And so things tend to last and remain undisturbed. Some of the environments you get underwater, there are colder conditions, low oxygen content at times, less sunlight. All of these things contribute towards better conservation. And you can, once you get a sediment cover on top of some of the material, so as sediment covers over the top of, say, shipwreck remains or cargoes, the preservation can be very, very good because you end up getting a very stable environment that can last for hundreds of years, thousands of years, and it actually sort of creates a time capsule. It preserves everything underneath that layer. And so there is a potential for greater preservation, ironically, underwater. Now, that's not to say that if you have areas of high activity, high energy zones, like a surf zone or where there's a lot of wave action, of course, you have a lot of significant effects on and destructive effects. But once things settle down and those sites get buried, the preservation can be very good. Okay, so let's come to Pakistan specifically. What are some of the major periods and themes that we're dealing with when it comes to Pakistan? So there's a chronology of sort of going all the way back to Paleolithic and prehistoric sites, and this sort of goes into sort of the Indus civilization, which is sort of in the Neolithic. It's maybe about, say, 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, where there would have been a maritime coastal presence for an Indus civilization site. And this continues then through a whole period of ancient and classical periods of the Achaemenid Empire, Alexander the Great. There've been major dynasties and civilizations that have passed through this region of the Northern Arabian Sea and of course the Indus River and its and the broader Indus Valley, if you like. So trying to understand and really place maritime archaeological sites, we have to really have an appreciation and an understanding of this chronology of history, where when you find archaeological material, how are you dating it, and what is it? What period is it associated with? So this is an essential component of maritime archaeological investigations, is trying to identify cultural authorship. Now, what do some of these things look like? This is basically an interesting a model of the Mohenjo-daro seal, which it shows actually a vessel from the Indus civilization period. You also have some themes around the maritime silk route, and this is something that many people understand as the Maritime Silk Road, but there was a sea version, a sea-based version of this this movement of people and materials and trade goods across the world. And really, this is sort of an early period of global globalization. And so this has existed for millennia, and this is also one of the major themes of maritime archaeology within the Indian Ocean, and also in particularly in Pakistan. I'll move forward a little bit through this. I mean, there's evidence of international trade. We're finding ceramic porcelain. There's the spice route, which was again another period of maybe the early modern period of during the Portuguese in the 15th on 16th century onwards. That was also very prevalent in the Arabian Sea region. You've got coastal piracy. This is something that has existed again through millennia, but there are again particular historical periods where there's both coastal and more naval-based interactions around piracy. Religious pilgrimage is something that is obviously also both incoming and outgoing from this region. So, okay, let's come down to the types of sites. What are we seeing? And I think this is really what's interesting is we've got prehistoric sites, you've got maritime infrastructure, certain modern wrecks, which are aircraft. So these are clearly modern sites, and usually made from aluminium and certain types of materials. So they have their unique types of changes and transformations that happen. Shipwrecks and cargoes, tidal fish traps, and also, of course, riverine and internal water, vessels and sites in internal waters. And they're sort of freshwater sites in a way, so they have slightly different sets of issues. And so we're finding a whole range of these, and I should mention just some of these images you're seeing. We've got coastal sites, we've got shipwrecks and underwater sites. You've got trade goods showing up at these historical ports in the Indus Delta. And you also have traditional practices, so boat building as well as sail, the period of sail, while now has mostly passed, we still sort of are seeing remnants of it within Pakistan. Again, so these are some photos of shipwrecks. Now, these serve also as artificial reefs, and so they're not just cultural artifacts. Ultimately, these are sites that are entire habitats and ecosystems, part of an ecosystem that supports a range of diverse marine life. And so protection of these sites, in effect, also protects these habitats. And those are essential for preserving marine biodiversity. And so there is this relationship between the cultural and natural values. Again, submerged isolated finds so these are stone anchors that date from anywhere from, say, 300-400 years to 3,000-4,000 years. They're notoriously hard to date, but we're finding many of these off the Pakistan coast. So look, I'm just approaching 15 minutes, so I will try and wrap up. I'll just go quickly through some of the remaining slides here. So part of what we're doing at MaritimEA is developing a spatial database and integrating a lot of this this documentation effort, both through historical research and fieldwork, into a geospatial data set that will effectively become an underwater cultural heritage database. But I do want to again mention that there are many different types of traditional practices that we're also coming across in working with local communities. And so this is another very important cultural aspect of oceans, is the intangible living heritage, if you like, with local communities. Some of the threats to underwater cultural heritage in Pakistan are, again, coastal development, Moazzam Saab mentioned, there's a single point mooring off the Gadani coastline. This type of maritime infrastructure can, if it's not assessed correctly in terms of how it needs to be placed, can be detrimental to underwater cultural heritage as well. There's obviously treasure hunting and looting activity, and then of course climate change, which is, so effectively you have activities that inadvertently damage underwater cultural heritage. There are activities that target specifically the sort of treasure hunting activity that focuses on these types of sites and souveniring activity. And then of course there's the background effects of climate change. Now, salvage is one of these sort of treasure hunting activities is something I like to make the distinction between the type of activity that is targeting underwater cultural heritage sites. And this is what we really do need to stand firm against. But there is a form of genuine commercial salvage that deals with non-historical vessels, for instance. And that is completely legitimate. That's a form of economic activity that is not targeting heritage sites per se, but appears quite similar because, of course, they are going in and taking items off of sites, which don't happen to be heritage sites. Quickly, the ocean acidification is one of those things that I like to mention here as well, because it makes a lot of, I mean, this would be immediately obvious to folks involved in marine conservation and marine biodiversity conservation, is the issues of ocean acidification that result from climate change. We're talking about elevated ocean temperatures, which results in an acidification of water, of marine waters. And this is effectively creates with that acidification that is detrimental to calcification of marine, what certain marine animals require to survive. And in the same way that it reduces their ability to calcify and create their shells, those are the same animals that are actually concreting onto and accreting onto shipwrecks and protecting them. And so with an increased temperature, greater acidification, you get a negative effect on marine life, but it also has a negative effect on the shipwrecks because they can't accrete the protections that they need. And of course, that results in faster deterioration. So there's just an example really of how one of the major sort of threads around climate change are affecting both marine life and, or rather the natural values as well as the cultural values. This is a video that shows a shipwreck. I don't know if the audio is coming through here, but these are ghost nets again, and some of the same effects that Moazzam Saab was talking about earlier. Well, these are affecting shipwreck sites as well. They are actually tearing these shipwreck sites apart, and in the process, killing thousands and thousands of fish that use these shipwrecks as nurseries, effectively rely on these sites for protection in deeper water. And before they extend out into the open sea, they usually congregate around shipwreck sites or other types of reefs, because these are artificial reefs in a way. And so if they're being effectively harvested, if that's the right word, because they're not really, they're just dying on these nets that have been abandoned. And so we're actually, there's a negative effect on the shipwrecks, there's a negative effect on marine life. And so what we're seeing is sort of these parallels, and what's not good for nature is also not good for underwater cultural heritage. And so I'll just finish by saying there is an underwater, a UNESCO Convention for the Protection of Underwater Cultural Heritage. This was adopted in 2001. Currently 79 countries have ratified, only 4 in the Asia, in sort of what's the Asia Pacific region, or called Group 4. Pakistan is now considering ratification. There's some potential movement on this. So I'm hopeful that that this will go to 5 countries soon. And the features of the convention are in situ preservation of protecting things where they are, non-commercial exploitation of underwater cultural heritage. So similarly to, you know, how you have coral harvesting, that people remove coral and sell it. Similarly, the idea of preventing such activities, also to prevent people from exploiting and looting underwater cultural heritage sites for similar reasons. And then, of course, there's the cooperation between state parties that have ratified the convention, and combined training initiatives and capacity development. I won't go into this much more. I think in terms of my time, I'll just say that there are certain provisions of these conventions, and really Pakistan's heritage legislation is will probably need to go through some amendment and some review before Pakistan is really compliant with this convention. And this is one of the few conventions that Pakistan hasn't yet ratified. So I think there's a lot of potential for some work to be done here to help get us across the line with ratification. Sorry, thank you. That I did end up going over a few minutes. Happy to take any questions later. I know that we have sort of a questions session that's coming up.
Yeah, thank you.
I will.
Yeah, thank you, Amer, for these valuable insights, and I just want to invite Dr. Anwar Abdullah, founder of Ocean Quest Global. He started his journey in coral conservation in 1981. Today, his coral reef rehabilitation project have been implemented in over 70 plus locations worldwide. He has written books on coral propagation, coral nursery development, and the complete guide to coral reef rehabilitation. In 2004, he invented and patented the coral catalyst that is used extensively in coral propagation at Ocean Quest Global. The catalyst is the key to a fully organic coral propagation system. Sir, now you can share your insights about the ethics of the conservation. Anwar, you can speak.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Can
Now.
everybody hear? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we have to, when we talk about ethics in conservation, we have to consider what is the new trend, what is the latest trend in conservation. Especially like me, I work in a global scale, so country by country there is a unique way of things are done. There are legislation and rules and regulation that is similar but different. Each country has its policy and everything. This is why from 1st of July this year, Ocean Quest Global, our organization, is going into the corporatization instead of staying as it is as organization. The reason why is because we have to follow the global trend. The global trend, it doesn't work anymore. Whatever we know about conservation today, whether it is institutional, academical, or political, whatever the government knows, or whatever the so-called thinkers know, it doesn't work anymore. Why? If we track back to when it started right after the Second World War. And that was many, many, many years ago. And until today, we are still debating and talking about the same thing. Therefore, we have to break apart from the norm. This norm doesn't work anymore. Globally, conservation is a losing battle, and that's for sure. That's for sure. Unless we break away from the norm and start everything anew. Start everything anew in terms of approach, in terms of financings, in terms of regulating, in terms of sciences, in terms of development of trends. Everything has to be changed if we want to face the future in a way that we think our grandchildren will benefit from what we are doing. If we stay the same way, with the same legislation, the same way of making rules and laws, the same way of enforcing, the same way of, we already knew it didn't work. We already knew it didn't work, okay? So let me share screen. How things are in the global trend today, the new norm that is approaching, the new ethics that is coming. So when we talk about ethics, where are we sharing screen? Share. Okay. Here we go. Okay, can you guys see? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna, wait, yeah, enlarge it. Just a moment. I will enlarge it. I'm checking if you guys can see.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So ocean conservation, the shift of global trends. We are talking about ethics. Okay. If we talk about ethics, right, we are actually talking on a very biased platform, a very, very biased platform. We say, okay, fishermen should not do this. Fishermen should not do that. Fishermen. Well, on the other hand, most scientists can do what they want. They can go and extract what they want, even in a dwindling population of species. They can go, oh, they will extract everything and bring it to their lab and whatever. Oh, and then they laugh at you and say, oh, all in the name of science. Is that ethical? Okay, when we talk about future, and this trend has to change. If we want to talk about regulation, then we regulate everything, not only the people who have the upper hand, that has all rights to do. And while the other ones who are just, first of all, have no knowledge of what they've done about the damage, most of them. Most fishermen don't know. If the corporation that owns the fishing fleet, they know, but they don't care. It's because of the profit. But in many places around the world, conservation itself, people who plant corals will go to the living reef, a healthy living reef, break the corals and plant them on structures that they build, supposedly to rehabilitate reef. Well, you are damaging reef to start with, and then you put it on your structure, and you don't know if it actually survived or not, or it will die. But then, because of some scientific purpose or whatever it is, people will say, oh, that's okay. No, it's not okay. When we talk about ethics, we have to regulate everybody, right? Everybody has to observe a certain protocol, and that's future. We cannot have institutional people step over the line and say, oh, it's in the name of science, we are going to take this, we're going to take that. No, species are dwindling already now. Everybody knows a lot of species are threatened and are dwindling. And whether you take one bucket or one barge full of the specimen, it doesn't matter. It's threatening the existence of that species. So therefore, the new trend would shift, right? So shift in trend. Let's talk about shift in trend. The shift in trend, the picture you see in the background, okay, from the first picture to this picture, It's a picture of one coral. And this coral is a giant. This coral, just one coral, it measures about 50 meters long by 32 meters wide, one coral, one colony. Okay? Why do I mention this? Because we have to shift in trend in the way we assume the coral reef is undergoing the threats. Because for this coral that was this picture taken like 2 weeks ago in Vietnam, for this coral to grow to that immense size, it must have survived all the challenges and continue growing while the reef surrounding it dying. So are there different kind of corals that actually build reefs? And are there different kind of corals that's supposed to go through a cycle of living and dying to create the substructure for giants like this to grow? Things like this. We are very young. Science is very young in terms of coral reef. Every graduate that comes out of university as a marine biologist don't necessarily is a coral expert. Okay, they are marine biologists. They are not per se coral biologists. Okay, to be a coral biologist or to be a coral expert even, it takes many years of self-development. It takes 20, 30, 25, 30, 35, even 40 years and over that, then you will just be able to scratch the surface of it. Okay, so there's a lot of things that we are assuming about coral reef before are mainly errors. There's a lot of errors in the sciences of it. Why? Because for coral to grow and die and shift and take a transitional species, for reef to grow takes many, many years, even thousands of years. And scientific papers is written within three years, 2 years, most of them, 2 years. And how do you write scientific facts about something that is developing over a period of a millennium, for example, right? You can't. So you have to shift in trend in terms of sciences as well. You have to shift in trend in terms of ethical way of approaching a situation, and then to be able to know what is right and what is wrong. So for so many papers that's written within a span of 2 years, it's all errors. But every institution in the world is reading it, is swallowing it whole, believing in it. So is it ethical to be able to publish something that you are not even sure right or wrong, but you think it is right because you worked 2 years on it? But 2 years in a coral reef is almost like 1 second of the time of the whole year, right? So how do you take 1 second of 1 year and assuming that you know everything in that year? Okay, so scientific papers and scientific publication about corals, because I've been reading and reading and reading, and most of it I found it's not true. It's not, because most of the reason why it is published based on time frame that is unrealistic for this kind of species. Okay, so if it is published and it make people believe in that scientific fact, which is not a fact, then it's not ethical too, right? So the shift in trend has to go on, whereby studies on coral reef has to be handed over from one scientist to another until a certain conclusion can be made. Otherwise, it's unethical to publish because it misleads people. That's shift in trend. Another shift in trend is the system. You can see in the picture here, the person who's surveying this coral. It pulls a straight line across and it measures 56 meters. That's a straight line length. But the surface of this coral is up and down. So the curvature of the surface of this colony is actually much longer than 56 meters, right? So will the researcher publish the actual length based on curvature, or will it based on a straight line linear measurement? And if it's measured through the linear measurement, will it be misinterpreted by another researcher who comes later? We have to tell people how far we have gone through and what is needed to continue this work. We cannot conclude. And when it comes to coral reef restoration and ocean, especially seafloor shift, all of this, we are very young. The science is very young to be able to. That is scientific part. And then the conservation part. Last year, in 2024, there's a spike of seawater temperature that causes bleaching throughout the region. In fact, throughout the world, because it bleached in Sharm el-Sheikh too, in Red Sea. So the bleaching. But this coral, this Pavona coral, did not bleach. It did not bleach. The rest of the reef is devastated. So when it's devastated, where is the conservationist who will come to protect this one who didn't die? Why do I say to protect this one? Because every coral grazer, the crown of thorn starfish, the Drupella snail, the fireworm, whatever that's grazing on coral, where do they go? They go to this monumental coral. They go to here. And when they come here to devastate this monumental coral, there's not a single conservationist or conservation activist that actually act on it to remove those threats or to create a countermeasure of this threat, the secondary threat that's coming. Why? Because plainly, we don't know. We don't know anything about this until now. Until now, we realize, oh, when there's a mass bleaching, we have to go out and find all this monumental coral and mark them, map them, observe them, and protect them from secondary threats. Nobody talked about it yet. Because why? Because nobody actually saw it. Now we know, but all the legislation, all the laws, all the everything, they protect in a certain area they call marine protected area or marine sanctuary or marine parks. And if this coral is outside of it, oh, it's beyond our jurisdiction. It's not our area. We shouldn't, we didn't go out that far to take care of it. Then we risk a loss of the entire species, okay? So if we want to talk about ethics of conservation, then it has to be universal. If there's a law, the law applies universal, not only on one island, not only on, it has to be the entire coastline. It has to be the entire economic zone. It has to be everything. Then it protects it without leaving loopholes for people. Because of this loophole, illegal fishing, dynamite fishing, ghost net, whatever it is, happens outside of it. It is not protected. Fisherman is free to go, do anything. But then, if we do it generally, then there's a lot of people who are working in the fishing industry who have no job. We have to feed them somehow. We'll have no job. Then there's a question, when can we allow, when can we not? Those kind of things has to come in the future to be able to allow taking in a sustainable way while protecting the entire seafloor, literally. It has to be different. It has to be rewritten entirely. And one of the things that has to be rewritten is that the conservation of nature, whether it's ocean or land, must be non-political. If it's political, it will be the same way as today. Okay? That's a shift in trend. Because once it becomes political, the ethical side of practices is questionable. Okay? So, besides this shift of trend, scientific opportunity, yes. Scientific opportunities is not only for institutional people. It's not only for the scientists, they call it, because they only go out to the ocean probably twice, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times a year, while there are citizens who go out almost daily, but they are not allowed, not taught the way of doing science. They are not taught of how to measure. They're not taught to how to quantify. They're not anything because they are not a scientist. Then, if we rely only on the handful of scientists around the world to do this, we are in a losing battle. We are totally in losing battle, right? So it boils down to the next topic, qualification versus capacity. Is qualification so important that we lost the capacity to take care of the ocean? We have to define this. We have to define this. If you are looking for qualified people to take care of the ocean, there are not many. There's one of the reasons is that there's not enough money in this to attract those who are good, those who are really, really qualified. They'd rather be talking or be a lecturer or be somebody earning a 5-6 figure salary than going out to the ocean. But those with the capacity to go out, those who are out there doing things, are not allowed to do this. So is the system actually ethical by segregating, by saying, oh, it's only for marine biologists, or it's only for scientists, or it's only for academicians? You didn't know anything, you shouldn't. So if you don't know anything, then here I am, I'm supposed to teach you. This is what the world needs to change to be able to make a difference in the ocean. About qualification, whatever it is, I'm the founder of Ocean Quest Global, I'm this and that, and I invented this and that. If I'm alone, I will never be able to save any ocean. Correct? I need people. I need 20,000 over people to be able to run a system globally. And that 20,000 people will influence 10. Each of them will influence 10. Therefore, it becomes 200,000 people. Then we are talking about building capacity. But hey, we can't. We can't. Why? Because these people are not marine biologists. Yeah? Show me one project, one conservation project in this world that is actually built by a marine biologist. None. None. The coral farms in Indonesia, they are fishermen who come and work in the coral farm and literally develop skill sets on gardening coral. The people in Palau, the same way, that breed coral in captivity and in the ocean for the ornamental, the aquarium market. Same story. The people who grow thousands of coral in Thailand are mainly dive masters and instructors who really want to make a change and come and volunteer and learn the basics of coral handling, because it is a skill set. It is not, they are not required to go through a 3-year academic qualification to be able to plant corals, because the same way you don't need an academic qualification to learn how to put a seed in the soil in a pot and water it and watch it sprout. That's a skill set. We have to change. We cannot focus on qualification alone and ignore capacity. People with capacity are far bigger in numbers that can make a difference, but they can't because they are not allowed to. They're not allowed to, right? So, but look at national park, marine park, national sanctuary, whatever it is. Most of them who are there, who stop people from doing things, they themselves didn't know what they're doing, right? Are they academically qualified? No, they're not. Most of them, they're not, from the head to down to the bottom. Mostly are not. Sometimes you have a head of department, which is a PhD on marine something that has no relation to the coral reef, but is in charge of the coral reef, okay? And then no to everybody. If you touch coral, you're going to go to jail. If you do this, you got. So we are focusing on qualification and we ignore capacity. The capacity to make a change is what we have to focus now in the modern world today, okay? So this is what we saw. That is why we are corporatizing Ocean Quest Global. We are going to raise the financial requirement to be able to operate globally, and then to train the people to plant coral with skill sets to plant corals, with skill sets to protect the reef, with skill sets to plant the giant plant, to grow the giant plant, with skill set to breed fishes so that we can replenish the population. We can't expect things like before anymore. Politically, you spend $2 million, make structure and throw it in the ocean, and you call it, oh, a fish aggregation. It attracts fish. Yeah, it attracts fish for who? For fishermen to catch it easily. So you are depleting the population much faster. You're not conserving, right? So this is the thing that we have to change. I'm showing it. So the ethics in marine conservation and the education and the system has to shift towards opening its door for capacity building, for people, not the academicians, not the people who are afraid to go in the water or are shy or are scared of getting dirty will never help the ocean. Okay, so capacity building. This is another shift. Harnessing people's power. This is another thing. Make communities, create communities. If they don't know and you know, teach them. right? Every religion in this world will tell you, if you are a person of knowledge, what do you need to do? Teach people, right? No matter it's Christian or Muslim or Buddhist or whatever it is, harnessing the people, teach them, build the capacity. If you want to make a change in the ocean, this is when you have to start. You have to start educating the people, educating them, nurturing them, building their interests, show them how to appreciate. When they appreciate, when they learn that they can make even more income from one living fish in the ocean as compared to catching them and selling in the market. A parrotfish from the reef is sold at less than $1.50 US per kilo. A school of parrotfish alive in the ocean will repeatedly generate money from snorkelers going to watch them alive, right? Hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars can be made on a living fish. And they don't destroy the ocean. We don't catch them. We don't kill them. So if we can instill this kind of knowledge that a living fish can make more money than catching it, weighing it, and selling it in kilograms. Okay? So harnessing people in a way that show them interest, show them things that they should consider, give them alternative thinking, allow them to do critical thinking, allow them to question. A lot of governmental agencies did not allow people to question at all, right? If you are talking about saving the ocean and you don't harness the people, the only growing commodity in the world is the population of people. If you don't harness this to your advantage, you will never be able to. And then teach them what? Teach them ethics. Teach them ethics. If they kill, it is going to disappear forever from this earth. Teach them ethics, not to extract coral from a living reef in order to show that you are able to plant coral on your structure. Pick the one that is broken, fragmented on the seafloor. Leave the living reef intact, undisturbed. Why? Because you never know. The damage you do to it will not recover, and the one you plant is failed. Therefore, you lose both. Teach them that this is ethics. This is simple ethics. Like handling of corals. How do you handle coral? How do you take coral? A lot of things, if you see in the internet, with bare hands and grabbing with hammers, hammering away the coral, with chisels, all this, right? But there is a standard of care. If you think about coral is an animal. If you talk to a veterinarian, they will tell you about the standard of care when they treat animals. So why does people don't treat the coral the same way? Because they never learn about this ethics, the ethical system, right? So ethics is the part of it. If they know the ethics of it, they will not do it. Oh, this is wrong. Why don't we do it the other way? People are like that. They are not criminals. They are not born criminals. All of them born with a good heart. All of them born want to do something, want to accomplish something, if given the opportunity, right? So this is why we need to harness the power of people. Change that legislation. The no this, no that, stop this, stop that, cannot this, cannot that. That is the time of the Japanese Second World War. Yes, it doesn't apply today. Okay, so then
Yeah,
harnessing technology.
Anwar, we have a very shortened time. We just have 29 minutes left. So
Okay.
sorry, it's a 14
Right.
minutes
So
left.
we have to harness technology. So yeah, we have to learn about these things. Today, with technology, we spend less time on doing damage to the ocean. We don't have to take things and put it out of the water to show people. There are videos and whatever. So for that, I say thank you for listening. And this is the global trend today that we need to preserve the monumental sites. I'm sure you will find some of this giant even in the Arabian Sea. It's just not discovered yet, right? So preserve your monumental sites and change the way people think. Preserve ethics. Thank you.
Thank you, Anwar, so much for these insights and these values for the ethics in the conservation. Now I will quickly invited the Maria, founder of Coalition of Law Students Against Deep Sea Mining. She is an international environmental law student, a fellow of the Sustainable Ocean Alliance. She works with a legal consultancy researching sustainable mining practices and fighting deep sea mining. She is working with the attorney representing the Pacific island of Tonga and Fiji in their fight against mining in the Pacific. Maria, now you can share the insight on reality of deep sea mining. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me and see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. My name is Maria. I am a law student at Lewis and Clark Law School. I started a coalition against deep sea mining because it is an environmental disaster that has not happened yet. So I was really attracted to the idea of preventing something before it even happens. In our coalition, we empower young students, future legal professionals to fight against this. We talk to politicians, we do a lot of coalition building, we educate. So a lot of what I will be speaking with you today will also be what we're talking to politicians about. This is what we're telling everyone. To begin, I will explain what deep sea mining is. It is the process of removal of minerals from the deep sea floor. So these minerals occur in one of three ways. It can be in massive sulfides in the seafloor, extruded from hydrothermal vents. It can be ferromanganese formed along seamounts, so cobalt-rich crust. And most notably, and what the international community is now very much worried about, is polymetallic nodules that are resting on the abyssal plain. Polymetallic nodules are rock-like formations in the deep sea floor, which you can see in the picture here, that formed over millions of years, usually from exoskeletons, and they exist in the abyssal plain. So each of these minerals contain various levels of strategic things that we need, such as nickel, copper, cobalt, manganese. And these minerals are called critical minerals because they're used in many things that our governments use, from defense systems, batteries, smartphones, medical devices. Because of their importance in tech and weapon systems, access to these minerals is a key factor for security concerns and for military concerns. And this is the reason why many governments around the world, including the International Seabed Authority, are looking to mine the deep sea. They found a gigantic area in the Pacific called the Clarion-Clipperton Zone that holds hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions of polymetallic nodules, and many different governments are very interested in mining them. Let me go on to the next. So this is what deep sea mining would actually...
Sorry, Maria, interrupting you. The slides are not changing in front of us.
You guys can't see?
No, we can't see the slide.
Okay, so for some reason, I think my computer's being a little stupid. Let me try to... Can you see it now?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys.
Sorry, Mari, when you are clicking on a slideshow, we can't see a slideshow. You can just directly show us.
Sorry?
We can't see when you click on a slideshow, we can't see this slideshow. Yeah, now we can
Okay.
see your cursor is
Now?
live. Yeah, this is okay.
Okay, great. All right, sorry about that. So these polymetallic nodules are found on the abyssal plain. So they are between 3,000 and 6,000 meters underwater, which is the equivalent of having about 50 elephants stacked on top. So what deep sea mining is you go with a gigantic ship and you take these robotic machines, you deploy them from the ship and they go all the way down to the seafloor. And these robotic machines excavate the seafloor. Then they sort of have this vacuum-like structure that connects them to the upper ship. So by excavating, they take all of the polymetallic nodules, they take sediments, they pump it up to the ship, and then the ship takes the minerals and releases everything that they're not going to use, which is debris, wastewater, and this debris and wastewater is released into the water column, as you can see here, and it forms large sediment clouds underwater. And then, of course, the minerals are taken to processing facilities on land. So what are some of the environmental impacts, which is some of the things that we're very much worried about? These polymetallic nodules, as I said before, have taken millions of years to form. And in the deep sea floor, they play a very vital role in the ecosystems that they are a part of. A lot of these deep sea ecosystems rely on them. They either grow on them, they use them for mating, they hide under them. And when the deep sea floor is mined, it takes up absolutely everything. So it takes up both the polymetallic nodules, but also all of the organisms that are living there. And this includes clams, mussels, many different deep sea organisms. The sediment plumes that I was talking about before also affect the animals that live in the water column. Turtles, sharks, cetaceans, anyone that lives closer to the surface of the water is affected by these sediment plumes. I will say the picture that you see here is from a deep sea mining test that was conducted in the 1970s here in the United States. It was conducted off the coast of the Carolinas in a place called the Blake Plateau. And the vacuum cleaner-like machinery that I was talking about before mined a small area. And 2 years ago, so 50 years after this test was conducted, scientists went down there with underwater drones to look at how the ecosystem evolved after this mining, and they found that absolutely nothing has grown back. And here's an article that was explaining what happened. And so this leads us to the environmental concerns that we have. The loss of biodiversity is expected to be absolutely immense. One of the big things that we're encountering a lot with the mining companies who want to do this is that they are misleading in their wording. They say that mining the deep sea is less environmentally destructive than mining on land, because of course, when you mine on land, a lot of the time you have to do it in biodiversity rich areas like rainforest. However, this is misleading because the deep sea is also an incredibly biodiverse space. Every time that we go down there, we discover thousands of new organisms that we didn't know existed before. In the last 5 years, around 2,000 new organisms have been discovered. 90% of them don't even have names anymore. That's how little we know about them. When I speak about this to people, I kind of speak about it as if we found an alien planet, and we found life in an alien planet, but now instead of exploring this life in this alien planet, we just decide to destroy it without discovering it first. And this is exactly what's going on. The deep sea is basically like an alien planet. We know more about the Milky Way than we know about the deep sea. These organisms, because they live in such hard conditions because of the amount of water pressure and the lack of food, they have very interesting adaptations that are genetically incredibly important for the pharmaceutical industry, for the healthcare industry. In fact, the COVID vaccine was found because of a deep sea organism. Tens of thousands of species have been found in the deep ocean, and these organisms will be killed through direct contact with heavy mining equipment on the seabed. The rest of the organisms along the water column would be smothered, suffocated by the sediment plumes. There could also be overheating, poisoning, and also a lot of noise pollution, which affects animals that depend on sonar. It could also impair feeding, reproduction of deep sea species. It could, there's just a lot of potential impacts. At the same time, the sediment plumes are also thought to be, I've seen studies that are coming out that say that the sediment plumes could also affect surface phytoplankton, and we are incredibly concerned about that. Phytoplankton give us a lot of the oxygen that we breathe. They are an integral part of the food web. So the area that is planning on being mined is almost as large as the United States. So we can imagine the amount of destruction that we are expecting to see. Also, my last point, the ocean, the deep ocean, is the world's largest carbon sink. It has been sequestering carbon for 2 million years. And so we also think that mining could impact the carbon cycle of the ocean, but also could disrupt the carbon sequestration potential of the deep sea floor. So a lot of environmental concerns, and something else that mining companies say is that, well, it's environmentally maybe not the best idea, but financially, it could be better than mining on land. And this is also incredibly misleading. Like I said, you have to get heavy machinery all the way down to the seafloor, which is very expensive to make these machines because they are under immense pressure. They break very easily. You have to buy new ones. You have to build new ones. It's a very financially intensive process, and the upfront costs are enormous. It's expected to be around $7 to $8 billion to even start mining at this scale. So a lot of the time, these mining companies don't have the upfront money to be able to do this, and they're going to governments around the world, the Republic of Nauru, which is a Pacific Island nation, and now the United States, in order asking these governments to pay for this. So basically asking taxpayers to pay for this. At the same time, metals have never been extracted at commercial scale from the seabed, and there are many uncertainties that it would be as lucrative as they say that it would be. These mining companies promise that that mining will give around $13 billion in return. However, this is in the best case scenario, right? We see that a lot of the times when these ocean mega projects happen, I think it's around 70% of ocean mega projects go 50% above the expected budget, just because it's so incredibly difficult to get the machinery down there. It's a very hostile environment to human-made infrastructure. So a lot of the time, like I said, they break, they have to go way slower than they anticipated, so the costs balloon. The metals company, which is the big company that wanted to mine the deep sea floor, they promised that they were going to bring 1,300 tons of nodules an hour. But in 2022, they did a test study, and they brought 3,000 tons over 2 months, which means that they're dealing with a lot of issues, basically. And at the same time, it might even be pointless to do this. Tesla, for example, which makes electric vehicle batteries depend on cobalt and nickel, which are some of the minerals that are found in the deep sea. And they've just invented a new battery that doesn't even need these minerals. So while it's not being used for the Teslas that are being sold now, what we are seeing now is that, we might mine the deep sea, spend all this money doing this, cause incredible environmental destruction, to then 4 or 5 years down the line not even need these minerals anymore. It might just seem like a very stupid financial decision, in my opinion, and also in the opinion of a lot of the world's leading insurance and financial companies. The world's major insurers, and my dad is an insurance lawyer, so we speak about this a lot. What these insurance companies do is basically these mining companies pay these insurance companies, and the insurance companies cover the cost of potential litigation, of potential destruction that might happen to their machinery. All of the world's major insurance companies have decided to exclude deep sea mining from their underwriting portfolios. This tells us that these insurance companies know that this is not a smart investment. At the same time, the European Investment Bank has said that it's unacceptable to invest in this because of the climate and environmental concerns. And all these other, the International Carpet Market Association, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, they don't want to invest in something that they know is this environmentally destructive, but also for another reason, which is the legal and geopolitical concerns that surround deep sea mining. So there's two types of seabed mining. There's the international one in the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, which I was just speaking about, and national seabed mining. In both of these instances, any country or company that wants to mine the deep seabed is basically opening themselves up to a lot of legal concerns. So I'm going to speak a little bit about international seabed mining. There is the United Nations, everyone I hope here knows what that is. There is an agreement called the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea, which basically a lot of countries came together and decided to have some rules and regulations to deal with the law of the sea that belongs to everyone. And they made the International Seabed Authority, which is the global authority that deals with rules and regulations regarding deep sea mining. These resources, because they are in international waters, they are what we call common heritage of humankind, meaning that they belong to all of us. Not one country owns them. Because, the expected returns are in the billions, there's this question of, does just one country or company deserve to profit off of them if they technically belong to everyone? At the same time, if it leads to an environmental catastrophe, who is left with the bill? Some of Tonga and Fiji, I work with a lawyer that represents them, and they are incredibly concerned because Tonga and Fiji depend on migratory fisheries, both for sustenance, but also their export is fisheries. So if deep sea mining affects tuna fisheries, which we increasingly believe that it's going to do so, they have the right to sue under international law. They have the right to go to this company and say, hey, I was relying on this, and because of your actions and because of you profiting off of this action that you did, you're making money off of this, and it hurts me. So they have the right to go to law, meaning that one, you're opening yourself up to litigation. Also, mining the international seabed unilaterally, meaning doing it without the input from other nations, is in violation of international law. And this is the issue that we're dealing right now in the United States because the Trump administration wants to mine the deep sea unilaterally, and it is in violation, meaning that all of the other signatories to UNCLOS, because these minerals were begotten in violation of international law, by law, they can't buy them. So I'm speaking to these senators and I'm telling them, you might be spending so much money in order to get these minerals to then not even be able to sell them to other countries. In the US, we don't have the infrastructure to refine them, meaning that we would have to export them to other countries. But we might not even be able to do that because most of the rest of the world is a signatory onto UNCLOS. So it's just a very dumb thing to do legally. Also geopolitically, it just proves that you don't care about other countries. You don't care whenever it's in one country's own interest to do what they want. And then when it's in the best interest of the country to follow what UNCLOS is saying. And you're not being a good global partner. At the same time, there is seabed mining in national waters. So each country has what we call an exclusive economic zone, meaning that within 200 miles of your coastline, you can do whatever you technically want. Your own country, you have the ability to do what you want. And some countries choose to mine in national seabed, in their national seabed. And there's nothing that the global community can do about that. However, as countries have seen that it is increasingly an environmental concern, it also negatively impacts their fisheries. They are choosing to hold back on it. And a lot of the time, and I'm giving this as an example, there was a lawsuit against Mexico. Mexico was going to mine the seabed, and they allowed this company called Odyssey, which had this machinery to come in and mine. And then they did more studies, environmental impact studies, into what this would mean for their fisheries. And they said, okay, never mind, we don't want to mine the seabed anymore. So what this mining company did is that they took them to court. And they said, hey, we expected to be able to mine the seafloor, and now we can't do it anymore. And this company won. So it's also for countries that want to mine in their national waters, they have to go to these mining companies that usually aren't from their country to do it, because it's, like I said, a very big investment for a country to do by themselves. And you are opening yourself up to possible litigation as well. And I have to leave, so I will trust that Shabib will give you guys my email after this if anyone here has any questions. But I just wanted to say that this has not happened yet. It is a huge environmental disaster that hasn't happened, so we still have time to fight this. I encourage everyone here to join the Sustainable Ocean Alliance, which is a global group of leaders who want to fight this. Also, the Deep Sea Conservation Coalition. I encourage you guys to connect with them and email your representatives, talk to your government leaders and say, say everything that I just talked to you about. Say that it's not a smart financial decision, it's not a smart legal decision, and it absolutely is not a smart environmental decision. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Maria.
Maria.
Yeah, it was very great and insightful talk.
Yeah.
To wrap up, I'd like to ask Sundus to lead us into a question answer session, addressing the questions from our participants.
Thank you so much, Habib, and thank you to all the speakers for such insightful presentations. So we do have a couple of questions. One is from Maria. This is regarding Flora and Fauna Act. So her question is the lack of implementation because there is no funding by the government? So Mr. Moazzam, would you like to take up this question?
Thank you very much. It's not that the issue is financial. There are other issues associated with the protection of marine fauna and flora. Like if you look at the two marine protected areas that we have in Pakistan, they are both located in Balochistan. The law and order situation alone is a single factor which is making a lot of hurdle in developing any management regime there. Although management plan for Astola is already ready, but implementing on that is facing a lot of problems just because the coastal area of Balochistan is practically inaccessible for those who can make some difference. So there are reasons, there are financial issues, definitely there are, but our laws are there. Implementation is very difficult at any law in Pakistan, and same is the case with the law in the ocean. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Moazzam. The next question we have is from Nuruz Sabah. She's saying, great session, Azam. How many identified archaeological sites have been documented and mapped in Pakistan? What is their nature? And do we have any historical sites like a buried civilization traces?
It's for Amer, not Azam.
Yeah, this is one.
Yes. So look, I think in terms of the work we've been doing so far, so we have historically documented sites, and then there are actual ground truthed sites that have been confirmed. So we probably got, I'd say at this stage, based on the lines of historical research we've been doing in terms of shipwreck records, we probably got in excess of about 400 documented shipwrecks in Pakistani waters. The actual number that's been physically confirmed is a much smaller number than that. These are historical records indicating vessel casualty and wrecking events. Now we are doing some additional work on that, so we expect that number to rise, and these would constitute the core elements of an underwater cultural heritage database. Now, in terms of actually documented sites where we've confirmed their locations, we're probably looking at about 40 to 50 sites at this stage, and this number has grown quite significantly in the last 1.5 to 2 years. So I'd say the last PMHS season we did identify a number of additional sites. So these are both shipwrecks as well as so in terms of addressing the nature of these sites. So we're looking at a number of stone anchors. These are isolated sites that have been identified just in the last couple of seasons. And when I say season, really the diving season is from about September, October till April, if you're lucky, March, April the following year. So we really only have about 5 to 6 months of the year where we can actually dive on these locations. The nature of documentation varies. So some of them are simply we've documented them through again our own efforts, but also information that's been shared by members of the community. And so what we require effectively is a location and some photographic evidence that identifies the remains. And so we've got a procedure effectively in terms of the minimal data set that you would require for a new data entry in the database. What else can I tell you? Just in terms of the other aspects of the question, in terms of the nature of the sites, our work is not just limited to underwater cultural heritage. So we also include maritime archaeological sites. So these may be on the coast, they may not be fully underwater, or they may be partially underwater. And so those sites are also relevant, and those, in fact, from the perspective of the convention, they would also be protected sites. So there are a number of sites within the Delta that we've been looking at that have underwater cultural heritage components to them. So the entire site might not be underwater, but certain components are. And I think that's probably, so the nature of sites is shipwrecks, isolated finds. There is a historic anchorage near Bidkhori that we're looking to investigate and do some more work on. And there are other stone anchor sites nearby that location as well. So I think I might just leave it there. If there's specific questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you so much, Amer.
Thank you. We have one question from Perrine, and she's asking, what does it mean to be a marine protected area in Pakistan? So Dr. Moazzam, would you like to take that up?
Marine protected area in Pakistan is just like any protected area. First of all, the reason being the international compulsion by 30 by 30 is one of the global initiative on which we have to comply, and at present we are just only at 0.2%. So you can imagine where we stand. By 30 by 30, we have to 30% of the area declared as marine protected area. Declaring marine protected area requires a lot of effort. It's not very easy to do it. First of all, we have to convince the people who are not technical. And then you have to face with some other agencies which are always a very big barrier to it. So knowing that a site is very important from biodiversity point of view, from the life that is there, from the historical perspective, and from so many other reasons, but it cannot be declared because of the very prolonged or complicated process. So we are working on both on Balochistan and Sindh to declare more protected area. We are working very aggressively site in Indus Delta, almost very near to the place where Amer is working. And also we are working for the offshore marine protected area. So it's not very difficult. It's very difficult because convincing those people who are the helm of affair is very difficult. For them, the life in marine environment or habitat or is not very important. Maria was mentioning about the deep sea mining. Now, there is a very strong group in Pakistan that if India is doing it, we should also be doing it. So just to develop a sort of technical basis to fight with those people is a very difficult one. So convincing anybody to declare any additional area is not that easy, but we are trying to work it in almost like the past 20 years, we are able to achieve 2 of them, and 3 are in the advanced stage of being approval. And I think they will be soon got the approval from the concerned government, and then we will be having some more areas where some of these sites have very important cultural value as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moazzam. Amer, you have a question.
Yeah, look, I just wanted to add to what Moazzam was talking about in relation to marine protected areas. I think another aspect of these areas are the cultural values. So in the case of Astola and Charna, which are the 2 declared MPAs at the moment, there hasn't really been a comprehensive assessment of the cultural values of these places. And these are immensely important historically, in terms of both important from a navigational perspective, but these are areas that have been used by local communities for millennia. And so there's going to be a cultural footprint associated with that. And it hasn't yet been assessed. There's a lot of potential when it comes to marine protected areas to not just focus on the marine biodiversity conservation and preservation values, but also the cultural values.
Yes, thank you so much. I think that's very important to take into account the cultural values of the area and not just about the marine habitat or biodiversity. Well, that's all the questions we have discussed. Thank you so much, everyone. And back to you, Shabir.
Thank you for all the speakers and all the participants for joining, and let's continue the vital conversation, and we will sure engage more the webinar series and connect you with. So thank you all and have a good day and protect the ocean and spread the awareness. Thank you.